Thank you, one member of the Brain Injury Association of Virginia who didn't bail on me. Hopefully, I can talk faster this time. You ready? Me too. It's a good thing time doesn't start until I start talking about the real topic. And the real topic is that's not that time. Okay. Colleges and universities have a great deal of authority and control over decisions that impact your future. Will they accept you? How much financial aid will they allow you, if they even allow you financial aid? What classes must you take to earn your degree? What they don't have control over is whether you qualify for reasonable accommodations and whether or not they will grant them to you. People who are in desperate need of reasonable accommodations are being denied things that could make the difference between graduation and dropping out. This is because there are no universal guidelines for the schools to follow, and they end up making their own policies that may or may not adhere to the ADA guidelines. I have personal experience dealing with trying to obtain accommodations for my own disability at different schools and having to meet different criteria for each school, as well as finding that the general response I received was that I was being given a privilege and not that the school was fulfilling a responsibility and an obligation to grant me my rights to accommodations. I ended up having to research at length exactly what my rights were and what the school's obligations were, and then I had to go back and fight the system to get what I needed. The process for obtaining accommodations for students attending institutes of higher learning need to be universal and clearly defined, following guidelines established by the ADA to prevent students who may not have that ability to fight that fight or the resources to advocate for themselves and protect their own rights. Currently, the Americans with Disabilities Act clearly defines what reasonable accommodations are, and they clearly define what qualifies as a disability. It is very specific what must be done to assist someone with a disability to accommodate them for employment. It mentions that educational institutions must follow the guidelines, and it slides them into employment. But they're not specific enough, and it leaves too much room for interpretations, and I have found that the schools take full advantage of that room. How can we make a difference? To effect change, the voices of many can be heard better than the voice of one. We can work together and use our collective influence to reach out to those in positions of power and can change the legislation that encompasses the ADA. The members of this audience represent a variety of groups and organizations that have established relationships with members of legislatures on local, state, and federal levels. By using those connections that you already have established, you and I can have direct access and get our message of the need to have the process for students to access and obtain accommodations clearly defined and standardized. Using pre-established relationships is much easier than trying to forge new paths to access those in positions of power. Some of you might be thinking, We can't possibly take on something this big and make a difference. There have been instances where one person has tried to take on an institution or organization, even the government, and failed to have their voice heard. I'm not asking anyone to do this alone. I'm proposing that while one voice may go unheard, the voices of many cannot be ignored. The original spirit of the ADA involved barriers to public access and employment. Over time, school was included in employment, but it was not clearly defined. This ambiguity opens the door for schools to basically make the law fit their vision. I have been told, if I need this many accommodations, how can I possibly be a nurse? I was told by one accommodations advisor that the course had already accommodations built in for those working. I didn't know that working was a disability. Something has to be done to make sure things are equal and lawful. The process needs to be clearly defined and standardized. If we work together, we can use our established connections and reach the right people and affect change. Students with disabilities need to be supported and not discouraged to be successful. We can make a difference. I want you to pick up the phone, reach out to your social media contacts, send out personal emails to the people you have developed relationships with over the years in this organization. Use your connections with those you have influence and the ability to, with those who have influence and the ability to make this happen. This time you're not asking for donations. You're asking them to fulfill their responsibilities and do a personal favor for a friend to help their loved one. And that will help so many more. We can make this happen. We can do this. Thank you so much for your time.